Deep in the woods, to the east of an old asylum, is a mysterious ruin. A lonely column of stone waits patiently for a story it once knew to be told again. The house that accompanied it is long gone, but the scandal that surrounded it is documented well, if you care to dig for it. Over the years, many details were forgotten. Most people don't even give this area a second look. But I like to revive this lost piece of history. In this video, we dive into the poison oak infested remains of this building and carefully examine what's left. I team up with Matt, a retired engineer, to interpret the clues left behind.
How this one got bent is extremely curious.
Finally, my brother Mark, a graphics expert, brings the building back to life in 3 dimensions, allowing us to learn even more about it. What we found links it to one of the biggest corruption scandals in the history of the Napa Asylum. We're in Napa, California, at a place called Skyline Wilderness Park. Historically, this land, all 850 acres of it, belonged to the Napa Insane Asylum, which was dominated by this Kirkbride building. While the Kirkbride was torn down in 1950, a network of paths once used by patients and staff penetrate the surrounding forest. You can't help but feel unsettled as fragments of history peer out from the hills. Like this chimney. It's 2 miles east of the main grounds on a hill by Lake Marie. You have to go back over 40 years to the first clue to its identity, to a 1982 article in the Napa Register. The asylum's historian at the time, Ellen Brannick, called this site a dam watchman's house. A loop trail at the top of the park will take visitors to an impressive stone ruin with a 30-foot brick chimney still standing. Legend has it that this was the hospital superintendent's summer home. Actually, it served as the dam watchman's residence, she reported. That makes sense. Nearby Lake Marie was created with a dam, now buried with earth. After the dam was built, it unfortunately leaked, necessitating that a watchman live nearby. But is that all this is? An old dam watchman's house? Brannick, it turns out, was partially right. Enter Dr. Elmer E. Stone. Elmer Ellsworth Stone was born in 1868. He grew up in Marysville, California. His father Charles was a 49er and prominent physician in the area. No doubt Elmer was greatly influenced by him because he too pursued a medical career. He graduated from Cooper Medical College, later acquired by Stanford, in 1890. In 1902, Stone landed a very prestigious role, medical superintendent of the Napa Insane Asylum. It was he who oversaw the construction of Lake Marie in 1908. It's possible he named the lake after his wife, Mary. Before she married Stone, she went by the name Marie, as you can see in her wedding announcement. An earlier superintendent had named a lake after his wife, so there was a precedent. All was going well for Stone until 1908, when cracks began to appear. Rumors circulated that Dr. Stone and the head matron were a little too friendly with each other. Stone almost lost his job. Then, in 1909, Stone ousted his assistant physician for no apparent reason. Puzzling because this doctor was extremely well regarded and had been recently promoted. An anonymous article appeared claiming Stone was swelled up and arrogant, that the doctor he'd fired was morally superior to him, and that Stone had hypnotized the board. But the big scandal broke in 1912. Spending habits at the asylum were raising eyebrows. The governor asked John Nayland, head of State Board of Control, to investigate. What Nayland found was evidence of massive graft and extravagance. A favorite tool of embezzlement was the hay fund. Many tons of hay were needed to run the asylum. Stone paid the hay vendor, but reported inflated numbers to the state for reimbursement. An exposé published by Nayland reveals that over $1,100 was embezzled from hay alone. For some perspective, this was equivalent to 3 new cars. That wasn't the worst of it, though. $12,000 worth of meat was supposedly paid for, but never delivered. $21,000 in food was purchased, but was unfit for consumption. Finally, bookkeeping was in terrible shape, perhaps intentionally. But what really bugged people was the extravagance. Stone lived like a lord. In addition to his primary residence, he had a bungalow built on the asylum grounds by Lake Marie. This beautiful bungalow was his private hunting and fishing lodge, and if you wanted to fish there, you needed his permission. It was, in effect, his party palace, and the state footed the bill for food and drink. Meanwhile, over 100 patients were sleeping on floors and under the eaves of buildings. Why wasn't the bungalow used to house them? The board of managers went into damage control, saying the bungalow was merely a shack made from refuse lumber left over from the dam. And here's the most interesting part. The building, they said, was simply intended for the watchman at the dam. So, could this be Stone's bungalow? Before we explore it, I'd like you to meet Matt Skaggs. Matt is a retired engineer. He used to work for the Navy analyzing torpedo failures. He's long been fascinated by Skyline and looks at the ruins through a different lens. He thinks this building, once thought to be a crematorium, actually housed an engine.
Little support. Oh,
See this?
yeah.
So this is what's called an inertia base.
Okay.
So you attach the engine to it, and then 2 of them vibrate together, and it damps out all the vibration because of all this mass.
He wrote up his theory for the Napa Historical Society, and one day we'll make a video about it. Matt was curious about the old chimney, so I cleaned up my notes to share with him. While performing a last-minute search, something incredible turned up. A picture of the bungalow. Excited by this new development, we met up for a hike to more closely compare this picture to the chimney.
I looked at dozens and dozens of chimneys from the era,
Yeah.
and this one's pretty distinctive.
Uh-huh.
It's not like there was, a lot of similarity between all these chimneys. They all kind of had different designs, and so this one, especially with the rolled top, looked like it was pretty distinctive.
Do you know like what classified a bungalow as a bungalow?
It's one of these things where, it started out with the idea. It was kind of fascinating because it sort of the beginning of home ownership in the U.S. was the bungalow. Before that, people, lived in apartment buildings and row houses and things like that. And this was kind of the appearance of the bungalow. They were small, but they were well built, and they had indoor plumbing, which was a big deal when they first appeared. And so it was kind of the American dream to get your own bungalow. It was kind of used, the term was used a bit derogatorily, people who, the lesser working class people lived in the bungalows, kind of a thing.
We first tried to match the chimney's orientation to the picture. We think the viewer was west of the chimney looking east. From this angle, features on the chimney seem to line up with the image. Also, look about a third of the way down from the top. The decorative cobblestones on the other side are interrupted by a line of bricks, suggesting this side faced in towards the house. Now it was time to get serious. This area is infested with poison oak, so we donned Tyvek suits for protection. It is a Tyvek suit for painting. Huh. Because I'm going to wade around in poison oak.
How heavy is that?
Oh, it's got little booties. Before we dive in, I want to share a few of Matt's observations on hunting in the area and the chimney's quality.
Well, looking at this, I would say the image that we have here of what's supposedly Dr. Stone's bungalow is most definitely what you would call a bungalow. So a single story with perhaps a small sleeping loft. It's not clear that that's actually present. This would be what was called a hipped roof bungalow, or a hipped bungalow. You can see the way the roof line's kind of truncated here, in the same way with the way it sort of drops in here. This deck, if indeed this is the correct place, would be lean right over the edge of the gorge. It would be a nice place to sit in a chair and hunt deer in the evening.
And you think that this location, it would have kind of funneled deer through? It would have been very easy to hunt deer.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I noticed about this place, is that it's one of the very most narrow places in the entire drainage here. And in fact, if you look across to the other side, it's very steep over there. Mm-hmm. And in fact, very steep back behind as well. So any of the deer that would be coming up and down Marie Creek would get funneled right through basically underneath the lip of this overhang here. And so the deck would be leaning right out over that. We did see from the record that it was there was a view, and so there would have been a lot less trees, so you would have a nice clean shot down to any game that was moving along the stream corridor. Mm-hmm. So this is one of the things I struggle with. Any theory that would say that this was built for workmen or a watchman, I believe this was built to impress. It's a large chimney. It's got some really nice work on it. You can see mortared fieldstone in the middle, and then bricks on the corners to give it nice square corners. So this is a luxury chimney.
At this point, we decided to wade in. As you can see, the area behind the chimney is extremely overgrown. But intriguingly, there's a stone pylon back here. Several of them, in fact. Some are embedded with bolts, as you can see. Now, if we could map out these pylons, we could compare the dimensions of this building to the picture. So we began taking as many measurements as we could get. Woohoo! Poison oak galore. And this distance here through the poison oak is, it's getting a little bit shorter. Here's the chimney, and here are the approximate locations of the pylons, some of which have bolts and their relative distances. Interestingly, one of the pylons had a bent bolt, which led Matt to a theory.
Looking at one of the pylons of the structure here, and there's a very unusual thing here. We notice that all these bolts are coming up out of the pylons. They all still have a square nut on the top of them. So what these would have been used for is that they would have dropped a beam over these nuts, and there would have been a countersunk hole in the top of the beam, and then they would go down and they would tighten the nut down onto the bolt. How this one got bent is extremely curious, but one thing that potentially could have happened is I suspect that this structure burned in place, and that's why these nuts are still on here. So if there had been a beam across here, and that entire structure was engaged in fire, what we might see is that the outside of the perimeter would all burn up. There would be still fragments of interior walls as the rest of the structure was going up, and then at some point perhaps a surviving beam, or post I should say, that went up from here would simply fall over because there's no longer any surrounding support. And so when it fell over, it would roll the beam that was on top of the pylon, and what you would end up with is something that might look like that. Highly speculative, but if there's another way to explain the beam or the bent bolt there, I don't know what it is.
Matt also pointed out a nearby hunk of charred wood, bolstering his theory. What we can do now is compare our measurements to the picture. We'll label these dimensions A through F, which should match this side of the building given its orientation. Here are the raw numbers, and you don't even have to adjust them to see how similar they are. Eerily similar, I would say. I think we have found Stone's bungalow. Still, a question remains. The bungalow was said to contain 12 beds, beds that could have been used for patients. Can we confirm this? We'd need a 3D reconstruction to calculate the building's square footage. My brother Mark offered to build a model based on our measurements and the picture. The main question was whether there was a sleeping loft, one that could accommodate a lot of beds. As Mark worked, it became clear that yes, a sleeping loft was possible. A person of average height at the time, 5 feet 8 inches, could stand upright on the second floor. He began modeling beds and confirmed that plenty of guests could bunk down in the bungalow. As Mark added details, the building began to emerge. In total, the building was around 2,500 square feet. So what was the ultimate fate of Dr. Stone and his den of debauchery? Well, Stone went through a very public and messy divorce with his wife. His wife, Mary, laid out a long history of adultery. She said he was openly living with a Mrs. Joy at the time. She claimed he had physically abused her and was withholding alimony in order to starve her into accepting his terms. Stone, in turn, claimed that his wife was paranoid. He was not having affairs and claimed it was Mary who had physically abused him. While Stone had avoided jail time for the asylum scandal, he did serve time for failing to pay alimony, and shortly thereafter married the very woman his wife had said he was having an affair with, Elsie Joy. From that point on, Stone remained out of the spotlight, living in LA until his death at the age of 72. Stone's bungalow was temporarily used as a dam watchman's house and then dismantled in 1920. In an effort to appear frugal, perhaps, the asylum scavenged the building materials and transported them back to the main campus in order to build a structure called the McCurry Cottage. Here's a photo of it, the third incarnation of Stone's bungalow. Now, what about the bent bolt? It's likely that elements of the bungalow were too big to move, and during a local wildfire, they may have burned in place. And so, a chimney in the woods transforms into a stark monument to corruption. Dr. Stone's greed is now matched only by that of nature, hungrily working to assimilate its decaying form. Another type of justice is served. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.